People always ask me about the pros and cons of living in Palm Springs, California. And with a beautiful desert setting like this, do you really need to know anything more? Yes, you do. There's a lot about the pros and cons of living in Palm Springs that you should consider before moving here or buying a home here. And you're going to hear some things in this video you haven't heard from other people about living in Palm Springs. And so you don't have to be looking at me talking into the camera the whole time, I'm going to be showing you some scenes of what it's actually like living in Palm Springs, but I will come back from time to time. So a lot of times when people are asking about the pros and cons of living in Palm Springs, what they really want to know is, like, what do I love about living here? What do people not like about living in Palm Springs? What should someone know before they buy a house in Palm Springs? And what have I found out since living in Palm Springs? So as you watch this video, ask if any of these three descriptions might be you. Are you someone who's thinking of moving to Palm Springs full-time? Maybe you're going to retire. Maybe you have a job here or are considering a job here. Or maybe you're one of the lucky few who can work from home and work from anywhere, and this is a great place to do that. Number two, you might be what we call a snowbird, and you want to have a second home or a vacation home that's not in a cold winter climate. So if you live in the Northeast, the Northwest, the Upper Midwest, Canada, or anywhere else in the world with harsh winters, you might be considering Palm Springs as your second home. And then there are those that have vacation homes. And I consider that to be the people that want to come here for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, for New Year's, maybe for some of the festivals and other events we have. And when they're not here, they're thinking of using those properties as short-term rentals. And I'm sure there's some people that have some mix of all three, but I'm trying to keep it simple. And those things, those three elements, are what makes Palm Springs real estate really different than real estate anywhere else in the United States. And I know about real estate because I'm a Palm Springs real estate broker. I'm going to put my contact information in the description down below, and it's elsewhere on this channel. I help buyers and sellers in all price ranges. I've been a broker for many years. I've been selling real estate in Southern California for many years. And whether your time frame is next week or next month or sometime in the future, feel free to reach out. You can email me, you can call me, you can text me, or we can even set up a Zoom call. Many of the people I work with don't live locally at all. So after that rather long intro, sorry about that, we're going to jump into the pros and cons of living in Palm Springs. But two more things first. Number one, remember to subscribe. That's kind of really important to people who do these videos. And also, since I do rather long videos, which you probably know if you've been on this channel before, there are chapters down below in the description. So if there's something that might interest you more than something else, you can jump right to that. So often, my pros and cons are two sides of the same coin. What do you mean by that, Ellis? What are you talking about? Just wait a second, you'll catch the drift. The first thing to discuss in the pros and cons of living in Palm Springs is, of course, the weather. And we have 7 months of amazing, just about perfect weather. Sunny every day, temperatures between 70 and 90 degrees, and it's just gorgeous. It's why people flock to Palm Springs from all over the world, and let's count them on my fingers. November, December, January, February, March, April, May. Yeah, that's 7 months. And starts to get a little bit hotter in May, of course. But through what we call the high season, January, February, March, is just amazing. And the shoulder season, October, November, December, it could be warm in October and starting to cool down November and December. So you have 7 months of this amazing, perfect weather. And then you know what happens next. It gets like really hot, like triple digits, days, weeks, months on end. Last summer, we hit 124. I can't tell the difference after about 123. Only kidding. When you get that hot, it's just hot. It's too hot to do anything. And it's months on end. So whatever you're going to do, you get done outside before about 10:30 in the morning, because after that, it's hot. It is really hot. It takes a toll on things. Not just do you have to keep drinking water, your car, your stuff that's outside, your pets. Living in triple digit heat for months on end may not be exactly for everyone. Now, another thing that's weather related, I don't hear a lot of people talk about it, is it gets really windy, particularly if you're in Palm Springs north of Vistachino, between about Vistachino and the 10 freeway. Like how windy is really windy? You can get 30, 40, 50 mile per hour gusts. That's windy. And when you have the triple digit heat and you have that wind and you're outside, it's like, I don't know. So like think about holding up a hairdryer, blowing it really into your face. I wouldn't know much about hair dryers, obviously, but it's just you get the wind and that triple digit heat. It is just not pleasant. The other thing with the wind is it's a desert. There's sand. The sand blows around. I've been in sandstorms where my cars got sandblasted. We call them haboobs, but the sand can get in your pool. And maybe that's not exactly weather, but it's, I don't know, it's a climate condition or something. But you've got like triple digit heat for a number of months, for 5 months, 3, 4 months at least. And you've got high winds in the north end of Palm Springs. And then you've got the sand blowing around. The other thing about the sand blowing around is 2 of the major arteries get closed down. Indian Canyon Drive typically closed down maybe a little bit north of San Rafael up to the 10 freeway. And Gene Autry is also closed. Now, they are building some bridges on Indian Canyon, so it may alleviate that, but just another thing to consider. Now, when we're talking about the hot weather as a con, the 7 months of beautiful weather is a pro, obviously. The thing a lot of people don't tell you is sometimes it also gets humid. That was a real surprise to me. So remember in the beginning when I said, when people are asking about the pros and cons, what they really want to know is, like, what did you find out that may have surprised you about living in Palm Springs? That humidity. So it's one thing to say, oh, it's 95, it's 100 degrees out, it's 105, but it's a dry heat. And yes, there is a difference when it's a dry heat. But when you're talking about it's 105 and humid, I can't describe it. And it just may not be for everyone. Now, where does this humidity come from? So there's like some monsoons and storms in the Gulf of Mexico, gets into the southwest, and you know, we're a couple hundred miles from Arizona, and it gets here, and it gets hot and humid. The first time it happened that I experienced it, I thought my AC was broken. It wasn't, but you get those triple digits, you get some humidity, that's a lot to live with. When you're discussing the pros and cons of living in Palm Springs, you've got to mention, as a pro, the amazing outdoor lifestyle. You like doing anything, enjoying the outdoors, this is the place to do it. So everyone knows that in the greater Palm Springs area, I shouldn't say everyone knows, but I think everyone knows, there's over 100, maybe 120 different golf courses. So if you like to golf, come here during those amazing winter months and you can golf every day to your heart's content multiple times. But not everyone's a golfer. You might enjoy tennis. Yep, we got a lot of tennis courts. Even these days, a lot of pickleball courts. My favorite thing to do to enjoy the outdoor lifestyle other than pickleball is hiking. I love hiking up in these mountains. And haven't been quite to the top of San Jacinto hiking in the tramway, yes, but all these mountains in back of downtown that you see in all my videos, or most of my videos, I've hiked to the top of those. You go on the North Lichen Trail, you go up the Museum Trail, there's even some picnic tables up there. It's really cool. I've got some videos about that, but hiking is great. Now, if you don't want to get up in the mountains, you got people just walking around, and you could be bike riding, a lot of bikers out here, and you could be jogging. You want to go out for a run during those nice winter months, you're doing that. And if you like bike riding, the CV Link, which is being extended up to where the tramway ends, all through the north end of Palm Springs. That's going to be a cool way to bike and get out of the traffic. Or you could just be biking around here in Vista Las Palmas, which is there any place nicer in the world? I don't think so. Oh, and can't forget pools. You jump in the pool to cool off, or you jump in the pool for a swim, or maybe just go for a pool party. So the outdoor lifestyle in Palm Springs can't be beat. That's a major pro. Now, the con on that, the negative aspect is during those triple digit summer months, you're not doing most of these things, I'm sorry. But, maybe if you can go out and play around the golf or pickleball or tennis before 10 o'clock in the morning, you can do it. But then I do hear people, they tell me they have tee times to play golf as soon as the sun comes up. But, what we can do here in the winter, we just can't do during those summer months. So again, two sides of the same coin. You've got great indoor-outdoor lifestyle when you can enjoy it. You've got great weather 7 months. So all those things you can do outdoors, those are great. But when you're not doing things, there's always a lot going on in Palm Springs. So everyone's heard about Coachella and Stagecoach and the other big festivals like that. But there's also the Palm Springs International Film Festival. There's Modernism Week. I love Modernism Week. You've probably seen it in some of my videos. There's professional golf tournaments, PGA tournaments. There's professional tennis tournaments. I even hear there's a professional pickleball tournament now in Palm Springs. So there's always stuff to do. And that's just one of the great things about living in Palm Springs. Now, the flip side of it is, well, there's always a lot of people at those places and doing things, particularly during the high season. It gets pretty crowded around here. Another pro of living in Palm Springs is we got some great local restaurants. I have my own theory on this. I think a lot of the best chefs and restaurateurs got tired of the rat race in New York and LA and kind of came out here to live the laid-back desert lifestyle and just like the rest of us. And let me show you some of my favorites. So for this video, when I'm talking about the restaurants in Palm Springs, I'm primarily talking about the restaurants in downtown Palm Springs, not the greater Coachella Valley. Let me just show you some screenshots of a few, and maybe I'll do another video on Palm Springs restaurants. That might be an interesting topic, right? So here's the pro and con. There's some great places to eat. Cons are during the summer season, you can probably get in without a reservation, but not all of them are open in the same hours they are in the winter. And during the winter, there's a lot of tourists, so you may have to make a reservation, you may have some trouble getting in. So remember I mentioned about the high season, January, February, March, and the 7 great months. You get a lot of people coming here. So if you're living in Palm Springs and you're going downtown, be prepared for tourists. If you have a home in Palm Springs and your neighbors are doing short-term rental, Airbnb or VRBO, you might have a lot of people coming and going. So Palm Springs, compared to other cities in the Coachella Valley, Palm Desert, Rancho Mirage, La Quinta, whatever, we do allow for short-term rentals, which is a pro if you have a house that you want to use for short-term rental. But we get a great influx of people coming here. Restaurants get much more crowded. Getting reservations is more difficult. Finding parking can get more difficult. It's just mid-uptown, downtown Palm Springs could become quite touristy at times of the years. People, if they're renting a house in your neighborhood, they could be just, trying to have some fun, and that could get kind of annoying sometimes if you're trying to go to sleep. One of the pros of living in Palm Springs for me, and I really love about living in Palm Springs, is that it's kind of a sleepy, quiet town. I mean, it's really peaceful here. And yeah, sometimes planes pass overhead, but it's a pretty laid-back place. Now, sometimes that being laid back can kind of also get to you. Not me, because I'm just a boring businessman, love to sell real estate and do videos, but other people. Well, the good news is there's an international airport here. You can get to any place pretty much from Palm Springs. And if you're not jetting out and you're driving, you can get to LA in a couple hours. You can get to San Diego in a couple hours. You can get to the beaches in Orange County in a couple hours, or maybe it's 2.5 hours sometimes. But, you know, jump in the car, drive, do an Airbnb down there, hang out with some friends, do whatever. So, you know, if it gets a little bit too laid back here, you can always get out of town. So the pro is it's relaxing, desert laid back lifestyle in an internationally known famous tourist destination, of course. And then the con is that you may go a little bit stir crazy sometimes. When we're talking about the pros and cons, people always ask me about the cost of living. So other than real estate could be really expensive here, or even renting, let's talk about other things you're going to be spending money on. Now, I've not done a scientific study on this, but my impression is that utilities, gas, water, electric, cost more than it might in other parts of Southern California. I can tell you, if you're running your AC, which you will be doing a lot, and you don't have, let's say, solar panels, which can defray the cost quite a bit, you're going to have a pretty large electric bill. And if you do have solar panels and you're not on the older billing system, I forget what they call the new one now, I'm on an older one, your electric bill may be quite high. Here people get $300, $400, $500 electric bill if they have a big house blasting the AC during the summer. Now, what about the cost of gas? Well, that beautiful pool you have with the heater, you heat it up in the winter and you're going to get that gas bill. It's going to be kind of expensive. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but you should be aware of it. Remember when I mentioned desert weather, you know, when it's beautiful in the winter? It also gets pretty cold overnight in the winter. It could be down in the 40s. And if you're like me, you might have the heat on in your house. And if it's heated by gas, well, there's even more gas. So you're heating your house overnight. It's in the 40s. During the day, it's up to 70 or 80, maybe 90s. Put the AC on, you're jumping in your pool, running gas utilities, and that can get expensive. Your beautiful, lush lawn, you see them in all of my videos, lush desert landscaping. Well, you have to water those plants, and that can get expensive as well. So the cost of living on utilities, and I think on food, can be quite high here compared to other parts of Southern California. That's just a con. There's no positive to that. If you're enjoying this pros and cons video, remember to hit that subscribe button. I'm always publishing content, and I try to give you the best information you're going to find anywhere on YouTube. I want to talk to you about driving my car in Palm Springs because it's both a pro and a con. Let's jump into that topic. So no discussion of the pros and cons of Palm Springs can be complete without talking about the driving. For one thing, there's usually not a lot of traffic, and that's a pro. But you're going to be driving maybe a little bit further than you used to in other parts of the country. So like I know when we're going to the Costco, it's like 20 miles from where we live in Palm Springs. If we're going to the Trader Joe's, that could be like 15 miles from where we live in Palm Springs. But there's not a lot of traffic a lot of time. Now, during the high season, when there's a lot of tourists, yeah, you can get a lot of traffic. And sometimes those tourists don't know where they're going. So there's been more than one occasion where I've seen people not only running stop signs, but going like the wrong way on Indian Canyon Drive. We'd be heading south and there's someone coming like north the wrong way. And a lot of times when you're talking about the driving, a lot of the main roads are closed. So Indian Canyon Drive, wow, if it's open, I'm surprised. Between the wind and the sand on Indian Canyon and on Gene Archery, now they are building some bridges there to try to make the traffic better, but those roads could be totally closed. And if you're trying to get to the 10 or get on the other side of the 10, you could be backed up and going around all kind of detours. Now, speaking of the 10, usually it's pretty free-flowing and moving along. But when you get an accident on the 10 or, God forbid, a fatality, that's closed. And there's not a lot of roads you can get off. You just got to sit there. There are a couple of works around I know about, but mostly you're sitting there. Earlier in the video, I mentioned a lot of people who buy homes in Palm Springs want to work from home or they have work from anywhere jobs. And there's a little bit difference of that, but I'm not going to get into that right now. And Palm Springs is a great place to work from home, and it's a pro of living in Palm Springs. Now, the con is this: if you don't have a work from home job and you're looking for employment, let's say in the tech industry or the finance industry, those jobs kind of like don't exist. It seems like most of the employment here in Palm Springs is you have hospitality, of course, a lot of hotels and restaurants that could also be seasonal. You have health. There's a lot of really good hospitals, and there's somewhat of an aging population in the Coachella Valley, so healthcare is a good industry. There's retail, and there's some agricultural jobs. But, unless you really have a way to make money, maybe you're trading crypto, maybe you're day trading, maybe you have a full-time job, maybe you own a business, then this is not necessarily the place to come and look for work. So those are the pros and cons of the work environment in Palm Springs. No discussion of the pros and cons of Palm Springs is complete without talking about Palm Springs real estate, which is something I can talk about extensively because I'm a Palm Springs real estate broker. And you know how agents are, we just like to talk about how's the market and everything else like that. So the good news is that if you want to buy a home in Palm Springs, there's something for everyone at every price range. You can start in the low, under $500,000 for some condos, and it goes up to the multiple millions. There's just some really amazing properties here. However, it might be easier to buy than to sell. There's always a lot of inventory because there's a lot of turnover. Why is that? Those three reasons I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Some people may think they want to live here full time, and then after a couple of summers, can't really do that. Other people might think they're going to make a bunch of money doing a short-term rental, and that always doesn't pencil out. And then there are those who just, buy a home in Palm Springs as a second or third home and never use it as much as they think they're going to. So might be easier to buy than to sell. The other thing is that, as I've mentioned elsewhere in other videos on this channel, let me put a link to one up here, is that a lot of these properties are built on leased land. That also means you don't own the land, as I mentioned, but when you go to sell it, it may be harder for a buyer to get a mortgage. Making a sale, even harder. So a lot of things to consider before you buy a home in Palm Springs, because all homes get sold eventually, and this market is different. At the end of the video, I'm going to give you a couple of tips on buying and selling and how you can save some money in the process and how you can get the property you want at the price and terms you want. So Palm Springs real estate is a pro in that prices have really gone up, particularly after the pandemic, in the years since 2020. And on the other hand, selling it may be not as easy as you might think if you've sold places in other parts of the country. Thanks for watching this video about the pros and cons of living in Palm Springs. And before we finish, I want to do a quick recap. Remember the part way back when, about 20-something minutes ago, when I said sometimes things are two sides of the same coin? So let's look at that right now. A pro and a con is the weather. Winter, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful. Summer, well, you know what I said about that. It gets really hot, and then you got all these other things going on, like the wind and the humidity, and you got the weather as both a pro and a con, depending on what time of year you're here. And then another pro and con of living in Palm Springs is there's just a lot of things to do. It's great. If you like the outdoor lifestyle and you want to go hiking, play golf, tennis, pickleball, jogging, biking, there's just so much to do. But when you get to that hot months, you may be running out and doing some errands in the morning. That's your outside activity. So all the great things to do, pro, can only do a part of the year, con. And another pro and con is there's a lot of other things to do. There's a lot of festivals and just all kind of things. There's museums to go to. There's the tramway. There's the Modernism Week. There's all different, the PGA tournaments and the tennis tournaments and other things you could do when you're not directly doing things, but again, just part of the year. And another both pro and con is the real estate market. There's something for everyone here in every price range, and there's a lot of really great, interesting properties. I've been showing them to you throughout this video in one of the side panels. But, when you go to sell it, it might be a little bit more difficult than you think. Of course, unless I'm your broker, in which case, piece of cake, don't worry. But Palm Springs real estate is just different than anywhere else in the United States. And while we're talking about real estate, there are short-term rentals allowed, but not in every neighborhood if they're already maxed out at their 20% limit. So when you're buying a place, if you're thinking, wow, this is great, I'm going to come here for vacations and holidays, and I'll do short-term rentals when I'm not here, maybe yes, maybe no. You really have to research it first and check out that you can get that permit. And on the pros and cons of living in Palm Springs, this is a sleepy, small town that's an international tourist destination. So a lot of times, though, you can kind of get that small town kind of vibe, and you want a little bit more excitement. We're only 2 hours from LA, 2 hours from San Diego, 2 hours from the beaches in Orange County, if you hit the traffic at the right time, of course. And there's an international airport here, so you can get anywhere really quickly. And the last pro, which I didn't mention elsewhere, is I just love the people here. I've met so many great people and made so many friends. It's just really amazing. So if you want to be around creative people, interesting people, people from all walks of life and all over the world, Palm Springs is the place to be. Thanks for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed or hit that like, come on, there's still time. You can do it right now.